Cat got your tongue when you get on camera? Well, first of all, what you need to know is that it is normal to feel shy when you get on camera. Unless you're an actor, it's not natural to feel comfortable and at ease on the camera. Having said that, we all know that making video and being in front of the camera, especially if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, is really important so that you can increase your circle of influence, connect with more of your ideal client, and really help yourself promote and market yourself and your business. So, in just a minute, if you stick around, I'm going to share the top 10 ways that I've used to be able to overcome my camera shyness and dominate from behind that lens. Welcome to Waist Up Wardrobe. I'm Christine Vartanian, a civil engineer and attorney turned personal style expert and image consultant. As the founder of Jade for All Seasons, I am passionate about unveiling the inner confidence of my clients by developing their personal style. But is getting dressed up still important in our virtual world? Well, that's where my experience can help with what I call Waist Up Wardrobe. Waist Up Wardrobe is a podcast for all things you need to conduct an outstanding Zoom meeting. It's about how to dress for the camera, but it's not just about the clothes. It's about everything you need to know to show up on brand and professionally for the camera. Join me in the Waist Up Wardrobe studio to discuss how to navigate this virtual world and dominate from behind the desk. Hello, Virtual Nation. So glad to be here to get together again today to have a dialogue on something that's really important if you're in business for yourself and if you need to market yourself, promote yourself, and increase your circle of influence. Okay. One of the most important things that's going on in this day and age is that showing up on video live or really pre-recorded is really important so that people get to know who you are and get to know you from all over, really, right? You're not just talking one-on-one in a lecture hall. You're actually talking to a lens that will take you and broadcast you to the whole world at large, which helps you increase your circle of influence. And who doesn't want that in business? So today we're going to be really talking about that. But before I go there, I just want to say, I am thrilled that we have built this podcast. Now, this is episode 61, and that we get to provide all this information for you and dialogue so that we can collaborate around really showing up and dominating from behind that desk and dominating from behind that lens of the camera. So I'm just really thrilled that you're here. And I want to encourage you to dialogue with me, dialogue with myself and my very awesome producer, Rick Moscoso, who's always in the production room, making this whole show go round and really helping me create a great show with great content and producing it all. So it's a dialogue. So please drop in some questions into our dialogue box. Let us know what you're thinking. Give us your own tips that help you get over your camera shyness. And I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in. The first thing I want to say is that it is normal. It really is. It's a normal thing to feel not super comfortable in front of the camera. Most people don't. And if you haven't had practice doing it, it can be really intimidating. And I always pondered why that is. Why is it so hard to get in front of a camera lens and really connect with an audience or to not feel uncomfortable? And, so people who are amazing speakers that speak on stage or speak one-on-one with people, and they have no problem being on stage and talking to one-to-many, have no problem doing that. But then when they get behind the lens of a camera, all of a sudden things change and they feel a little bit less at ease. And it's so interesting to me that that happens. So, but what I want to help everybody understand is that it is normal not to feel super comfortable unless you're an actor, somebody who's practiced being in front of a camera and knows how it feels like. It is not going to feel natural to most of us. So let's get that out of the way first, because I think a lot of people think they look at somebody on camera and they think that they're a natural and they think they do a really good job on camera being, projecting their personality or being welcoming or engaging. And they don't realize that really it comes with a lot of work. Okay. So I actually would love for Rick to get on here because he has so much experience just, working with people, and recording them for live streaming, but for so many other things, brand videos and so many other venues, that he will have a great take on this. One of the things that when we first met Rick, we discussed was it's so interesting how when people get in front of a lens to record a video, they go, what do I say? And they could be like an enormous force in their industry, a huge expert, but they get all tongue twisted and they don't know what to say. What is your take on that?
Well, it's not uncommon for that to happen. And I think part of the fear of that is they don't want to say the wrong thing when they're new to being in front of the camera, right? They could stand on stage in front of thousands, like you said, and have no problem. They can stroll the stage, but here, you're pretty stationary. You're talking to your camera. There's no audience feedback, and it's sometimes difficult to start, right? So I always tell people when you first start, don't worry that no one is in the room with you. In fact, you should feel more comfortable that no one's in a room with you because you can be a little bit more natural. Just pretend if you do need some kind of feedback, pretend on the other side or the camera is your best friend and you're just having a conversation with them. Get yourself in the right mindset, be relaxed, and talk to the friend across the table.
That's a great tip. And I actually have a lot of tips that have helped me get more comfortable in front of the camera lens, but also I think could really help a lot of our listeners. And speaking of feeling like you're talking and like nobody's listening, it's really cool when people interact, right? And they drop some information in the dialogue so that you can have that interactive conversation. And sometimes people are even shy to do that, and they're not even in front of the camera, right? And PK's here, and she says, if you're used to speaking on stage, stand up during your on-camera presentation. What a great tip. You kind of pretend, right, PK? You're pretending that you are on an actual stage. What do you think about that, Rick? What PK suggested?
Well, that's a great idea because I'm going to do that here, and I'm looking for the right parts. But I feel more comfortable when I'm standing and speaking because I do a lot of speaking behind the mic. And so if you feel confined, if you feel nervous sitting down and talking, then maybe you should be on a stand-up desk or elevate your computer and your camera so you are standing, because then you feel a little bit freer. You do have a little bit of room to stroll back and forth, but although I wouldn't recommend you do that because then you might end up wandering off camera. But it does kind of free yourself and you don't feel as confined if you're standing.
Yeah, and that also contributes to being like stiff, right? And that comes
Yeah.
through on the camera lens, which people don't
Mhm.
realize. Body language is so important. Or if
Mhm.
you're walking across and then you get pulled by your headphones, like,
Yeah.
that would be funny. So I have a couple of tips that I really think have helped me get more at ease on camera. Because I will tell you, and Rick will attest to this, that getting on camera, I was very resistant. I really was very resistant. I did not want to do it. I did not want to go live. I did not want to create video. I didn't want to put myself out there because I think it's exactly what Rick was saying. It's the fear of saying the wrong thing or feeling silly or feeling, like somebody's going to judge you, right? We kind of have this idea that people are going to judge us or you're going to feel silly after you record it. And I'll tell you, there have been times where I'll say something like, oh my gosh, I said that and that sounded so silly. But you know what? It contributes to the humanity of who we are. We are human. We make mistakes. We're not always on point and we can be silly. And people give us grace over that because it happens to everybody. So, one of the number one tip I have to offer is the practice piece, right? Especially if you have a live show and you're going on live, creating a script or a bullet point presentation can be very, very helpful, especially if you have anxiety over being in front of the camera. And practicing in front of the mirror or practicing with somebody because then you get to hear yourself say what you're going to say, and that really helps. And I'll tell you, I did a lot of this at the very beginning when I was first creating the show, and I don't do any of that anymore. And so that's really a good experiment because most people will say, well, I'm going to have to do that every single time if I'm doing a weekly show. That seems like so much time spent. And I'll tell you, I'm here to tell you, I'm living proof that I started doing that maybe my first 10 to 15 episodes. I would like over prepare and practice, practice, practice. But that just helped me build a foundation for getting comfortable in front of the camera lens. And now I just told Rick I got on today and I literally have not practiced at all. And of course, I think it does come off as more natural if you aren't super scripted, but if it helps alleviate some of the nerves, it really is worth it to do it. And, people just, it helps to mess up in practice and know like how to react to that or how to undo it or how to like fix it because you've practiced that. So when you're on live and you say you do mess up again, you know how to like save it, like you know how to come back from it because you've done it in practice. And a lot of times I mentioned this earlier, like people get on camera and they don't know what to say, especially like experts and guests. But a really good thing to do that we do a lot on this show when we bring on guests is that we provide a question and answer format. So we provide them with a question so they kind of know the conversation. How is the conversation gonna develop? We don't always stick to those questions in that order, but it helps the guests get more at ease and less likely to be surprised by a question, even though they are an expert in the field. It still helps them be more at ease, and that's what we want for our guests because we want them to feel comfortable and eager to be on our show, and also eager to share the show after we record it. And I know Rick and myself have really done a lot of pre tech, like we do a show so that we can get the guests comfortable with that, and we work really really hard on making sure that they are at ease and by providing them a format, right, Rick? We do that all the time, and I want to just know from you, how do you see that helping the guests when we do that?
Well, I think that's really important because it keeps them on track. It sets an expectation of what direction that you're going to go with them. Because if it's unless your show is free flowing or free form, then in most cases it's not like that, and you could go on and on and on forever on something that maybe wasn't your intention to be you know brought up in the show. So it's a good idea to give them at least an idea of what direction that you're going to take in your pre-show discussion or email or whatever it is. Let them know what your intentions are. This is, I've had a lot of customers who asked about XYZ. I really like your feedback on this and kind of stay within the confines of that. And then if anything else spawns from, that discussion, then I'll prompt you and we'll talk about it. But I kind of want you to stay focused, and so it's not jumping all over the place. And that keeps them on track. It keeps your timing on track. It keeps the focus, and your audience won't lose interest because now instead of jumping all over the place.
Exactly. And I think too that it actually puts them at ease to have a basis of questions. And then so when we go a little bit off the question, they feel comfortable. Now they've warmed, it's almost like warming them up, right? With the
Mhm.
questions, which is
Mhm.
really, really important. The other thing is, so that was number one is the practice. Number two is creating a script. And I'm not saying a script that you stick to like religiously, but a script that is sort of a guide that then maybe can develop into just bullet points, which is really the goal. You don't want to have a script, right, Rick? You don't want to have a full on script because then you get so attached to it, then you come off as unnatural.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to do that because like I think we said this in a previous show, that if you script it so tight and the guest does end up going a little bit sideways, in a different direction, and then you're looking at your script and it's like, okay, how do I come back?
Yeah.
So uh, uh, what I always recommend to people is that just outline some bullets. If you have to write it down, then it's okay to have it on a piece of paper, on a notepad, sitting in front of you. I know you're referring to some notes that you probably have there on your desk. I do the same thing. Sometimes if there's something that I don't want to forget, that I absolutely want to bring up, I'll have a sticky note on my monitor. Now, my webcam is slightly down and in front on a stand. So I have this big 27-inch iMac where I can put sticky notes on. If there's something that I absolutely don't want to forget and it's right there in front of me, I can just look up and there it is.
Yeah. I think just these two ideas, these two main ideas of practicing and then creating a script that then can develop into just bullet points so that you are not so attached to the script, but rather you're talking about the main ideas. And that takes me to my third bullet point of my third idea of a way to alleviate that being uncertain in front of the camera, is that you are really trying to convey a main idea and not every single word. We're not trying to go word for word on a script, and that will cause anxiety because if you forget, then you are going to feel unnatural on camera and you're going to be like looking down and reading your script. And you also might get so attached that you'd come off as unauthentic, which is the number one thing you don't want to come off as. And, I love that PK is joining us here today because PK is a feng shui expert. I mean, she is the feng shui expert. There's so many people out there that hold themselves out to be, but she is the real deal. And I would love to hear from her if she's still on. If there's a feng shui tip, like a tip on from a feng shui perspective of how to ease yourself on camera. And maybe if she's still here, I hope that she drops something in the comments below and lets us know about that, because I'd love to hear her position on that. And you want to just talk from the heart. So we got practice, we got scripting, but really and whittling that down to just bullet points so you're not so attached to it. And really, number three is like thinking about the main idea. So PK is chiming in here. Thank you for doing that, PK. I get to have you here as an expert on the side. Surprise, surprise, to talk about being impromptu here. Before stage monitors, bullet points were a long-standing trick for onstage speaker. Yes, absolutely. And that still continues to be the case. I mean, there's some things that never change, right? So the fourth thing is that I really think is really important is smiling on camera. The more you smile, the more those endorphins of being happy come out, and the audience viewer sees that, then they interact with you and you engage them, and you actually up levels you emotionally and does bring some ease to what you're saying and how you're coming off on camera. And PK is saying, listening to guests leads to better follow-up questions. Absolutely. So that you bring up such an important point there, PK, because if we're so attached to the script, if we're so attached to the next question we're going to ask, we're not actually listening to the guests and what they're saying and then feeding off of that to really benefit the audience the most, right? You don't want to be so stuck in your head about what you're going to say next that you're ignoring what's actually going on in the conversation because you're so anxious and so tied down by your script. So absolutely true, 100%. So, the idea of smiling on camera, it's kind of like making eye contact, right? The body language that you're putting out there. Eye contact is important because you want to engage with people. And that is a little bit hard, but you get practice doing that, and that is really a key. But smiling also kind of releases this happy hormone that makes you a little bit more at ease. At least that's been my experience, and so it's a tool that I think just comes naturally to me because I have, like I was saying earlier in a live a video that I did, I have the laugh lines and the smile lines to prove it, that I usually fixated in a smiling position. But I think it serves me. I mean, just part of my personality too. And sometimes it's hard for people who aren't used to smiling all the time. I mean, they're delightful, but they're just not used to having that facial expression on all the time. So it's something they have to practice so that they can engage people more often. Oh, PK is saying that Johnny Carson was a fantastic interview because he stayed curious. Oh my gosh, PK, it's like you're my star guest today because you are bringing up such important things. Somebody told me once that, you asked some really good questions on the podcast, and my answer to that was, you know what? I just am so curious about people. So absolutely true. And I had no idea that Johnny Carson had said that, but being curious about people, being curious about the topic you're talking about, every little question leads to another question that is relevant, right? You want to stay relevant. You don't want to squirrel away from the topic, but being a good questioner, being somebody who is curious about the topic can really lead to some dynamic questions that give a lot of value. You want to stick to that. And when you find yourself really doing well in asking questions, that also can relax you because you're on the right track, you're engaged, the guest is engaged, and you feel like proud of what you're doing and confident in what you're doing, and then the conversation can really continue easily. So another way to really ease those nerves when you're on camera. Number 5, which people don't think about a lot, is getting comfortable. Like what you're wearing, like sometimes what you're wearing can impact how you're showing up on camera. If you're uncomfortable in your clothes, if you're wearing something too tight or you don't feel super confident in, that can lead to camera bashfulness because you're not sure if you're showing up properly. And PK says it takes fewer facial muscles to smile than to frown. Well, there you go. That must be why it's so easy for me to always to really. It's not a lot of practice for me to smile, and it's interesting to think about that because we think that, oh, it's not natural for me to smile. I don't know if I can be fixated in that position all the time, but maybe just not thinking about it so much, just really trying to do it and practice it can really make it a little bit more second nature, right? Everything takes practice. So getting comfortable, and it's really one of those tricks that is overlooked, making sure that you're sitting in a comfortable setting, that your chair is comfortable, that the clothes you're wearing are not restricting you, really leads to a little bit better confidence on camera. Also, dressing appropriately for the camera can make you super confident and steering you away from being shy on camera. So that would be my number 5 tip. Number 6 is be yourself. Really be yourself. And, sometimes people think that they are uninteresting in and of themselves. And it's so funny to me because, we're all each unique humans and individuals. And I always tell clients when I'm working with them, they'll come to me and we'll be working on their brand, their signature talk, right? And they'll say, well, I'm going on stage after somebody who's done so much in their lives, has been through so much trauma and has overcome it. How am I going to step on stage and really be able to equal that, or get on camera and say something that is of equal impact? And the reality is that everybody is a little bit ordinary, but they're also a little bit extraordinary. Everybody has their own story to tell. And it doesn't have to be that really gut-wrenching story to be valuable. Everybody has a piece of them that is extraordinary, that is helpful, that somebody else can learn from. So being yourself is always a great thing to do. And it always comes through on camera, because that's how you come off as authentic or not. If you're trying to be somebody you're not, if you're trying to, create a persona rather than be who you are and let that person that you are really shine on camera, people get it. They see that right through that. And so that's not a way to exude confidence. The way to exude confidence is just be who you are, with all your silliness, with all the mistakes that you make. And so PK is saying, hashtag energize and shine, offered to learn your birthday related wardrobe colors that increase your stamina, is still available. Oh, okay. So this is really great. Thank you, PK. So this is the thing with PK. I've known her for a while now, and she was a guest on the Waist Up Wardrobe show. And like I said, she is the expert in feng shui. I mean, there's nobody like this expert in this space, because so many people out there hold themselves out to be experts, but she is the go-to person. So we had a whole show on how to show up on camera and we talked about feng shui, and Pika educated us so much, and she is being so generous here. She is put the hashtag energize and shine from the show that we did with her, and she will show you and you will learn from her your best wardrobe colors from a feng shui perspective. If you offer her your birthday and connect with her here, you can connect her right here, message her, and she will get that to you. So it was and Rick put in the URL feng shui for growth.com. And thank you, PK, for offering that to our audience again. That is such a generous offer. If you don't take her up on this, you are missing an opportunity. So we talked about these 6 top ways to get comfortable on camera, right? Number 7 is warm up your voice. Some people really work on warming up their voice before they get on camera. And the reason why is sometimes when we're nervous, we kind of, we don't articulate as well when we get on camera, and we tend to maybe mumble a little bit. I know I used to do that a lot at the beginning. And one way to overcome that is to warm up your voice. And we had a whole show, actually it was episode with Molly Mahoney on camera confidence. And we talked about exercises that you can use to warm up your voice so that you can articulate better. And when you articulate better, you're more confident. So that is why that it can be really, really effective in getting over your not being at ease behind the camera. I always keep water on hand. Because sometimes what happens is you'll get a little tickle in your throat, and you're in the middle of a sentence and you can't speak. And that can throw you off a little bit. It can throw you off and make you feel a little bit nervous. So it's really important to have that little glass of water next to you. And Rick, you're on, because I know you have something to share about this.
I do. Yeah, it's a great idea to warm up like that, because if you're inexperienced and you've never done this before, you get a little bit fast, right? People tend to be a little bit fast only because they're nervous, and you're breathing faster, your pulse is up, and it sometimes, for some people, it's very noticeable when they're nervous, because they speak fast, they speak higher, they get a little squeaky. Guys get they tend to talk really fast, and it's like my son when he gets excited and he's talking about something, but he's nervous to talk about it. His voice gets lower, and then I don't understand what he's saying. It's like, you gotta stop mumbling. I can't understand what you're saying, So it's a good idea to just kind of, whatever your warm-up routine is. It could be just practicing your opening, for your podcast or for your live stream or whatever it is, and just walk around your office, walk around the house, and just get the blood flowing and practice that opening or whatever it is that you need to do to calm yourself down. But that's a great idea to do, because I know for you and I, when we were doing these, I think these were on video. Yeah, we were doing video something. I can't remember if it was a show or if it was a different project. But it was like the first episode that we taped, or the first line that we taped. I could tell Christine was a little anxious and a little nervous, because then her voice was like way up here, you know.
It
And it
was,
was like, yeah,
yeah.
I mean, but you know, after once we got into it, then it was normal. Then it was good, you know. And so, I mean, for us, then I made her go back to use that nice and calm voice, you know. But you know, everyone's a little bit different, and just kind of find what relaxes you before you start talking in front of the camera, because it can be noticeable, you know.
Right. And I did that a lot. I had the squeaky voice, and actually I would make me cringe. Like, that's why I stopped listening to the shows back at the beginning. I wasn't really replaying them for myself, because I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have PTSD for a long time. And I'm not going to want to go back on camera. But I had to overcome that thought and just, you know, and then continue on. So, definitely it can impact the way your voice can be a sure sign of showing that you are nervous. So you want to practice. Yes. Practice, warm up that voice. It's a really good thing to do. What my final tip, but I'm going to give you some bonus tips too. But the final number 10, which I think is really important, is being able to do your video from a private space. I think sometimes, and this is true for me, if I have people listening to me, like when I'm live, like if my kids or somebody's in the house, outside of my office, or in the same space I'm in, and I'm recording a video, I feel a little bit more self-conscious. And I don't know why. I guess it's because you feel like you're like it that they're thinking it's strange that you're talking into a camera lens. I don't know if you have a take on that, Rick or PK, but I feel like if somebody's listening to me, or I know somebody's in the next room and I'm an earshot away, I feel as though a little bit more nervous and a little bit more shy. Is there merit to that?
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Again, it's like, okay, you're comfortable by yourself in front of the camera, and because you know no one's watching you, right? But as soon as somebody peeks their head, is in earshot of your office door, or they're sitting there watching you, it's like all of a sudden you sense that, oh no, somebody's watching me, you know?
Yeah, it's like that stare. Like,
yeah,
I can't do it with somebody staring at me.
I know. Isn't that funny? Because
Yeah.
you could have a great video and there's thousands of people that'll end up watching it, and it's like, you know, but it's a subconscious thing. And I know when I first started doing that, I wanted to close everything off. I wanted to soundproof the door so no one could hear what I was saying, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just kind of a growth thing that you get over. You get used to it. You get comfortable. And, you know, if somebody does interrupt you,
Yeah.
use that as a feature of the show. You know, don't make it a big deal. Don't get all bent out of shape because the dog's barking or the garbage truck is driving by. You know, that's just a feature of your studio or something. You know, just make light of it, because people will appreciate that you know, anything can happen while you're on air, and it's like, oh yeah, Christine, she just handles everything. She's so cool, you know.
Yeah, you know, I'm so happy you said that. We had a guest on the show, Carrie Bodine, who is an expert in the client experience. And we were interviewing her from San Francisco, where she lives. I believe it was San Francisco. It was big city. And there was so much noise in the background from where she was streaming. And we talked about that being a feature, right? Rather than a negative thing, it was a feature. And that is a great way to set your mindset to it and kind of deal with it. And PK, oh my gosh, you are so kind to me. She says, I have a lovely voice. I appreciate that so much. I really have had to work on it, not being high and squeaky, but thank you for that. And, you know, she does make a good point. She says sometimes if you know people are around, you may be nervous that they might interrupt something important that you're saying or doing, you know, especially if it's like a professional stream that you're doing, and that could make you nervous. And therefore, you know, you come off a little bit unsure on the camera. So I really, there's a lot of merit to that psychological thing that, oh my gosh, you know, I might get interrupted. So so much good information here, right? On
Mhm.
somebody who really has been dealing with nerves in front of the camera. So many great things that we've highlighted, but I have 4 extra bonus tips that are my secrets that I've used that aren't so obvious. But it really helps me get over my nerves. It helps me get unstuck. Like if I feel like I'm stuck, and now I'm going to be telling you my secrets, so it's like a little bit vulnerable for me. But one of the things I do when I'm feeling a little bit nervous, or if maybe I am feeling like I need to break up the conversation, is I cut to Rick. I asked Rick to come on, so I'm not carrying the whole conversation. And when Rick comes on and he gets to be part of the conversation, it really helps me settle into my nerves. And it also helps me keep the conversation going in a very intentional, thoughtful way. So that, because the idea is I don't ever want to go off on a tangent or mumble, because then I'm not giving people value anymore. Right. So something I've learned to do is if I feel like I'm not on point, or if I might be going in the wrong direction, or if I just want the goodness that Rick has to offer, I'll say, "Hey, Rick, do you have do you have something to say about this?" And that always gets me settled in to my conversation again and reset, which I think is actually worked very well for me. Not everybody has that ability to cut to somebody else, but if you do, or even like with PK, like PK's on right now, we get to have a conversation with her. Cutting to a question can help you reset your mind and reset the topic. Rick, do you notice me doing that?
Oh yeah, I can tell. I can tell when, okay, it's like, okay, I've said what I need to say. Let's have some more feedback from somebody else. And that's great that you do that, because I can usually anticipate when you're going to come to me.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to extend the conversation, and then turn from presenter to interviewer, you know,
Yep.
at the same time. So that's we always joke around in the pre-show. It's like, Rick, you're going to come on the show, and I'm like, oh great, But I actually like coming on the show, so I always give her a hard time.
Yes, that is your role. Part of your role is to give me a hard time so I can get better, right? It's always about me elevating. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the challenges you set up for me, but that has been kind of my secret. And I guess it's not so much a secret anymore, because were on to me, and now I told everybody. So, but I
Yeah.
really think it helps. It really, but so that it has so many different benefits, right? It's not only me settling back into my nerves if I'm having nerves around a topic, or I don't know what to say next. It's also beneficial for the audience, right? Because I'm actually asking the opinion of another expert on the topic, and they get more value. And so that I feel makes it such a win-win-win. And I'm totally into win-win-win. That
Yeah.
is so important.
If I can add one other thing, I mean, if you're hesitant about to start your own live stream, but you have somebody else who can speak with you, then maybe consider having a co-host, because now you can have a little conversation going on back and forth with you and your co-host. And I do that all the time on another podcast that I do, and it's great, because it's not one-sided. We banter back and forth, we jab each other every once in a while, but it's a great alternative to just doing a solo live stream or solo podcast. So consider it if that's an option for you.
Absolutely. It's a great way to really gain some confidence when you're starting your own shows. Maybe you'll co-host a show. When I first started, streaming, and we came up with the Waist Up Wardrobe idea, I told Rick, I said, "Hey, Rick, I know you're going to produce my show, but could you be a sidekick too?" And he's like, "Sidekick? What's that?" I was like, "No, I don't mean it that. I mean, like, be a co-host, like in and out. Like, I think it gives the show some interesting vibe too. There's always somebody there controlling the show, but also has a very informed opinion to give. So it's been really wonderful to have that. So that is my one secret and bonus. I have a couple other bonus tips. I love having an intro to my show. I always open up with a hook, but I have my my intro, which is sort of my bio on film that we've created at the beginning of the show that's the same every show. And I like that because it gives people a sense of who I am, and it gives me a little bit more confidence stepping into the show that they kind of know who I am. And I've stated, what gives me credibility in the industry, or credibility as somebody that could speak and say something that could be valuable. So I think that is another great way to build confidence in starting a show, is having an intro, breaking up the conversation with, involving the audience and involving maybe a co-host or somebody that is streaming with you. And you know what? Admitting that you're camera shy out loud can be so powerful. I feel like when you admit the things that you're not sure about, it can empower you, and it feels so ironic, right? But I think sometimes, just saying it how it is not only gives you credibility with people, but it also makes them feel like, if she can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. So admitting that you are camera shy out loud can really empower you to overcoming that bashfulness. And finally, one of the most important things that we do, that I consider my fourth bonus tip I want to give, is that we do a tech check. We do a tech check with our guests, and we do a tech check, a pre-show together. And that really takes away a lot of nerves, because one of the unpredictable things about getting on camera is like, something can go wrong from a technical standpoint. Either your internet can give out, or your camera can stop working, or something can happen. Your link could be broken. Something can go wrong. And to do the check gives you that confidence that you're prepared. PK saying, love getting your unstuck bonus tip. Cut to the sidekick or comments. Yes. So again, there's so many things that we can do to really get more confident in front of the camera. The more we do it, right, the easier it gets. And I'm just going to kind of close, before I do the Voice Step Word of Weekly Wrap Up, I'm going to close with this idea that somebody told me once. And sounds like, Rick, you're going to say something really good right here, right now. But let me just say.
I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay. So I was going to say that somebody once told me, if you're anxious about something, the best way to get over that anxiety is to do what you're anxious about over and over again. So if you're scared of heights, the way to get over that is to put yourself in situations where you go on high places so that you can go over it. Sounds really strange, right? Because it's strange to overcome a fear by doing it over and over again. That feels like so scary, but it is a way to do it. And I will tell you, it is the number one way I got over being camera shy, is that I just kept doing it. We're 60 episodes in, and I have to say, I am 90% comfortable going on my live stream right now than I was when I started. So, Rick, your take on this?
Oh, you got to be more than that. I mean, you're a pro now. Come on. This is 61 here. And,
I have to be, there's always room for improvement. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. What I was going to say, to go back to your nervous comment, right? And how do you get relaxed before the show? I wish I could show the audience during the pre-show countdown the behind the scenes stuff, because now there's a technical purpose why we do the pre-show countdown, because it takes a few minutes for this feed to go out and notify people on Facebook or on YouTube, and that's the purpose of the countdown. But more importantly, it gives Christine and I, well, more Christine than me, but because I'm just sitting back in the shadows anyway. But Christine is actually dancing during the countdown. Oh
my gosh, you can see that.
Yeah, I can see that. I wish I could show the audience, because that's entertaining, and whatever it takes to relax. I mean, for Christine, she's, dancing during the countdown music, and it's great music, and that's cool, because now when she comes on, she's, relaxed and like in the mood and ready to go.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good point. That's why I do it. That's why I moved to, well, first of all, the music selection is amazing. You kind of just put that you decided about that music, and I love our open music. I think it's really aligned with the cadence of the show and the essence of the show. So it is a way for me to get physically a little bit, comfortable. And we are going to have to show that. You have to do that like secretly one day, because I don't want to know I'm being shown. But I think that it is really a way for me to relax. And, it's so funny because my coach, Allison Maslin, when she gets on stage, what I noticed is, like, look at Allison. Allison's somebody who talks to audiences all the time. I mean, she's not a shy, you would never see her as somebody who has nerves getting on stage. But she has a little dance that she does when she gets on stage. And I've noticed it's the same thing over. It's like a bounce, and she does this, and she does it over and over again, and she always does it. And I think it's because it relaxes her, it gets her kind of into that mindset. So we all can come up with something like that from a physical perspective. So we're warming up ourselves physically, but also mentally, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the Waist Up Wardrobe weekly wrap up is that knowing that the main takeaway is, I believe that it's really, really important to practice. Because when you practice ahead of time, when you get on camera, you feel more comfortable with the material and you don't feel like you're going to stumble as much. So that would be the main takeaway. The tips are to really go through the 10 things plus the 4 that I suggested. And, you might not implement all of them, but the ones that really speak to you, implement those and see how see if it changes your mental state of getting on camera and making video. And start with like a homemade video that you maybe are going to push out to a client, something that's easy so you can get some practice doing it. And an action item, just get on camera. I have to say, I will add here that I am adding new ways of going live intermittently. So I've been doing the live stream, right? And I've been doing that for 60 episodes. Today's episode 61. But now I'm adding a live video an hour before the show to tease the show, right? And it was really hard the first time. Even though I've been doing 60 episodes of live streaming, it was really hard to do it differently and just go live like that. And my first one was horrible. The camera was in the wrong position. I was being recorded sideways. I didn't know how to fix it, but I came up with a solution. I think half of my body was showing, but it's really just doing it and owning it and then improving it, right? So there's my point is adding a new thing every time, just getting started. Just get started, and that's your action item for today. And as you know, this is the Waist Up Wardrobe weekly wrap up, and this is Waist Up Wardrobe, where we stream every Thursday at 11:30 Pacific Standard Time. So join us next week because we're going to bring you a whole new episode, and we have some really, really cool things coming up this year where we're going to be talking to clients of mine who we've worked together, and we have created some amazing sets for them, and really and really change the way they show up virtually. So that's a whole series coming down the line, but there's so many other great episodes coming up. We're going to be talking about fall trends when it comes to fashion. We're going to be talking about how to build your capsule wardrobe and your basics and how to create your dream closet. So many great topics ahead. PK is saying to be more comfortable looking directly into the camera lens, clip a photo of your BFF or favorite client behind the camera and think that you're talking just to them. Well, Rick also seconded that earlier in the show. So thank you, PK, for taking such a interest in today's show and being really a host, a co-host with us. Thank you for being here. You are amazing at what you do. Please take advantage of PK's offer. Also, with hashtag Look and Shine, which I forgot to mention, we can jump on a call. Hashtag Look and Shine, and we can jump on a call and talk more about what makes you comfortable on camera, what you can do to implement and make better. If you have any questions about how, what stumbling blocks I had and how we've overcome them on this show, we can connect with the hashtag Look and Shine, and we can get on a call and talk about it with myself and Rick and help you elevate your camera game. So until next time, next Thursday, I'll see you then.